We are about to disclose a page of the Fender history, the so-called maple cap neck construction, found especially on 1967 and 1968 Telecasters. I'm showing you a couple of nice examples. To brush up some history, in the 1950s, Fender guitars featured a neck made out of one single solid block of maple. They used to route a channel out of the back of the neck for the truss rod housing. This channel was filled with a strip of walnut because the darker wood created a nice contrast, which was much simpler and cooler than just trying to hide the routing with matching maple. The strip of walnut is known with the affectionate nickname of skunk stripe. These necks also had a small walnut plug near the nut. By mid-1959, Fender switched to rosewood capped necks, probably to keep up with the elegance of Gibson fingerboards. The skunk stripe became unnecessary, as the truss rod channels were routed into the front rather than the back, and then covered by the glued-on rosewood fingerboards. These necks with no skunk stripes and no walnut plug remained the standard at Fender throughout the following years. In the mid-60s, more used Fenders were circulating, and the more discerning players began to turn their attention to the old 50s production, which led Fender to reintroduce an increasing number of maple necks. It's reasonable to believe that the Fender factory at the time could count on a huge stock of partially processed necks, predisposed for rosewood fingerboards, and so they just decided to proceed with the same manufacturing technique. Rather than producing a whole new neck, they simply attached a separate maple fingerboard, maple on maple. Like rosewood capped necks, these maple cap necks had the truss rod installed from the top side, and hence had no skunk stripe. The maple cap neck construction was phased out in 1969, when one-piece maple necks with skunk stripes were reintroduced. On the rosewood Telecaster, we found a reverse contrast or negative version of the skunk stripe, or should we say a more proper skunk stripe. Robbie Robertson used a very early 1965 maple cap Telecaster on the Rock of Ages live album of the band from 1972. Other notable players include Steve Winwood and Steve Baldwin of the Dr. Feelgood, who has an inseparable axe from 1967 nicknamed The Plank, with a huge tone. The unquestionable king of the maple cap was Albert Collins, who was very attached to his 1966 Telecaster Custom. This 1968 Telecaster belongs to my friend Giacomo Bagorda. It has a black logo with F-key tuners. For some reason, it had both string-through ferrules and a factory-installed Bigsby tailpiece. Giacomo decided to remove the Bigsby and install a standard bridge, which didn't require any modification. This seems the perfect instrument for the fast-picking and chicken-picking techniques of country music, which leads us to introduce our first guest ever, my friend, guitar virtuoso Diego Geraci. For 29 years, I've been the happy owner of this great-sounding 1967 maple cap Telecaster with a finished body, nicknamed Butter. I sold it recently. It has golden transition logo and cloisons. Since my very first gig, I've been using it extensively in countless recordings and gigs, this always being one of my favorite instruments. Butter, like other maple cap Telecasters, has a trebly and punchy sound with a strong attack. The maple cap fingerboards are really inspiring for bending, and the necks usually have a medium C profile that really makes you feel at home.